You're listening to The Money Hour with your host, Tina Mitchell, and co-host Keelan Harvey on Alternative Talk AM 1150. Now, back to the show with local mortgage experts Tina Mitchell and Keelan Harvey.
Welcome back to The Money Hour at 1150 AM KKNW, the Saturday, October 26th show. I am your host, Tina Mitchell.
And I am your co-host, Keelan Harvey.
And we are here to help you build a strong financial blueprint 1 week and one show at a time. If you're hearing our show at a different time or day, you are listening to a rebroadcast, but we're here to connect you with a guest that we have on the show or answer any questions that you might have. You can call the show at 1-855-400-1150. Again, that's 1-855-400-1150 or online at themoneyhour.com. In studio, we have Jim Rosemary of New Tech Web Inc., and it's all about boosting your website and growing your business. Jim, thank you so much for joining us in studio for the first time. Very excited to have you.
My pleasure to be here.
And a little bit about Jim. Jim is president of New Tech Web, a website design firm he founded in 1997, which specializes in online marketing and business development for small businesses. New Tech Web has helped hundreds of client companies across the continent create or reinvent their internet presence towards improving their bottom line results. Jim's experience in sales, marketing, training, and technology spans over 40 years and affords his clients with perspective insights on business, both online and offline. He has worked for companies like Sony and AT&T and has called on clients from Boeing and Microsoft to one-person startups working from home-based businesses. Jim is also a published author and international speaker. One of the aspects of business that Jim enjoys most is educating businesses.
Jim, so I'm probably the first question you get often is, and I mean, I've been curious about this myself, what is the average cost for a website typically? And I know they have all these weird free services stuff, but you get what you pay for, I would imagine, again, like always.
That's true, and that is probably the most common question we get. The answer, though, is probably one that people don't want to hear, and that is, it depends. It depends on a lot of various things. And you're right, there are places you can go online and get a website for free. And you do get what you pay for because you're the one building your website. Those commercials simply show you dragging stuff and pictures and images and content into your website. How do you know what stuff to drag in? But in terms of the cost, that's really where having a professional that represents your business is important. Websites can cost anywhere from a few $100s to tens of thousands. Most expensive one was about $500,000.
Wow.
It really depends on the business.
Yeah, and probably it depends in what's involved in creating a new website or upgrading that. Is that correct,
And I'll
Jim?
give you an example of that. A lot of times we're asked to just add a button. Well, adding the button is not the hard part. It's the functionality behind the button that's important. That's about building the engine that makes the website work or makes the function perform. That's the hard part.
Yeah, and I'm a owner of a mortgage software, which I created, but I hired a developing team to build it out, almost 10 years running on that. But yes, every time that I want to make some change or do an upgrade, it's like, well, there's so many different things that can affect. So do you really want to do this or not? So I love that.
Jim, can you talk about SEO and the importance of it? I know we hear a lot about that, about it, where you at in the SEO, blah, blah, blah. Tell us a little bit about your opinion of the SEO.
Yet if you're a business owner, you've probably gotten phone calls saying that they're Google. By the way, if you get a phone call from somebody that says they're from Google, they're not. Google will not call you in that way.
Interesting.
So it's probably a scam.
Okay.
But in those cases where people do call you or you hear about SEO, SEO stands for search engine optimization. Mm-hmm. In order to find your website, when people do a search, you have to be relevant to that search. And so we design the site so that your site comes up when somebody does a search for certain terms. How do you know what terms? Well, that depends on what people are searching for. The way we put it is that I'd much rather be a big fish in a small pond, that is, be a top-performing player for keywords that people are looking for. They're very targeted keywords.
Yeah.
But it has to be a pond that people are fishing in. Mm-hmm. That is, people have to be looking for those terms. It's very easy to rank well for your business name. That's usually pretty unique. But what's more important is how do you rank for those things people are searching for when they don't know your name? That's what's really key. And there's much more to SEO than just putting words on your website. There are things like structured data, kind of a technical thing in the background, and other factors that go into making your site show up when somebody does a search.
And that's why it's so critically important that you have a professional that understands all of this behind the scenes to make that work. Because yes, you want to have a presence, and whether it's you're trying to get internet leads or not, just having that presence when somebody is being introduced to you and they're going to find you online or they're putting something in that you've got a nice SEO as well. And also something that's really important too, Jim, would you agree, is mobile friendly, or what they say responsive. Can you talk about the importance of that?
Definitely. Actually, a couple of years ago, Google changed the way that they rank websites. They now use what's called mobile first indexing. That means that they look at your site as if it's on a phone, and they really determine where you rank based on how it looks on mobile devices. So that's what we want to do, is make sure that your site ranks well based on its mobile view. We want to make sure your site appears well on various devices, whether it's on your phone, whether it's on a tablet or a tablet turned sideways, on a small or large monitor. It has to respond to or change its layout based on the device. So that's a whole technology thing all by itself in the background that we take care of.
And if not, you're not player easy for the user. And it's really important that they're able to use your device, use your website and the tools that it has, and look for you based on their device.
That's definitely important. It's something we call UI, which is the user interface, or UX, which is the user experience. And a lot of that has to do with, does it work well? Is it easy to use?
Yeah, I think we've all been frustrated about you look something up and clearly it's not meant for a phone, and right away you're just ditching it.
Done.
Yeah, I'm done. I'm out of here.
Yeah,
absolutely.
What are the keys to an effective website? What are some tips that you could provide some of our listeners?
Well, the biggest thing I think is really focusing on the visitor. All too often, business owners talk about themselves, and I'll mention that here in a bit. But when it comes to presenting information for the visitor, we have to figure out what's the right information. In other words, what answers their objections or questions, what are they looking for, and really focus on them. I also point out when I do sales seminars, there are 3 keys to selling anything. Benefits is the first one. Benefits is the second one, and the third one. It's all about the benefits. So is that website being effective in spelling out what are the benefits to using this company, product, or service?
Yes, and those benefits can be tied to the problems that that they're having in their business and why they need you, correct?
Right.
Yes.
It also has to be written so that it's speaking to the visitor, not to audiences. We don't read anything as audiences or view things as audiences. So it has to be focused on you and your.
So important. Same thing in radio. It's all about you marketing. You always want to be using you, replace the use with I, and talk to one person, even though you may be talking to hundreds of thousands of people.
Absolutely.
Well, in the money hour, maybe millions of people.
Totally.
Yeah. Okay. Probably not. But we appreciate you out there listening, you that's listening. So let's talk about the difficulty of building your own website and why that might not be the best idea.
Yeah, we actually get a lot of calls from people who've tried to build their own websites, and they're at various stages. Either they've made it halfway through and now they're stuck on something technical, or they're at the very beginning and they realized it's not like the commercials say it is.
Yeah.
The commercials always paint out that you can just drag things into the screen and drag and drop, and it's easy to put stuff together. The challenge is, how do you structure it in a way that is going to make sense to the visitor when they come view the site, and that guides them through the process to the end that you want, as well as answers the objectives that they have.
Jim, who typically writes the website content?
Well, in our case, we write probably 95% of our clients' sites. That's not true for most website companies. Some do. But most companies basically say, give us your stuff and we'll put it up. Again, how do you know if it's the right stuff? How do you know to write it? Most business owners, first of all, don't have the time or interest in writing things. They may not be that great at writing to begin with.
Yes.
But also then it's writing things so that it appeals to the visitor, for one. It has to appeal to the search engines, for
the
two.
SEO.
And it also has to deliver your effective content. So how do you do all that stuff all at once? That's why you want it written by an expert.
And that's awesome, because they can bring in their brand and their words, but you're putting it into a professional piece that's going to represent them and their brand and maximize for the SEO at the same time.
Absolutely. I'll give you an SEO tip. Most of the time when business owners write their own content, they use far too many of the keywords. They try to embed those keywords too many times. And so there's a limit to that. Google will look at your content and say, we see what you're trying to do here. You're trying to stuff those keywords onto the page. If you do it too many times, you actually get penalized. But how many words should go on a page? Well, you could have 1,000 words on a page, and that's actually perfectly fine, as long as it's not fluff, as long as it's actually saying something that's important. And I'll give you a tip right now for all the listeners.
Okay.
No matter what business you're in, or even if you don't have a website, I want you to read this book. It's called The Ultimate Sales Letter by Dan Kennedy. The Ultimate Sales Letter by Dan Kennedy. He said something in the book that was really crucial for any kind of written communication, any marketing communication. What he said was that if somebody is interested in what you have to say or sell, they want to know more, not less. And in the web world especially, the assumption is everyone has a 2-second Facebook attention span.
Yes.
So we need to make it shorter. The problem with that is you're shortchanging your customers who are literally interested in what you have to say or sell. So what Dan said that hit me like a brick between the eyes is that if somebody's not interested in what you have to say or sell, you cannot make it short enough.
Interesting. Wow.
It's crazy how the algorithms are taking over as technology advances. These companies are picking up on it, and that's why you have an expert like Jim here.
The content and what you're doing, how much and how little is important.
Right.
So how much content should you have on a website specifically then, considering what you just said?
Well, size matters to Google.
Yeah.
That is, they want to see more content on your site. Content is king. And what is content? Well, it's the words on the page, the videos that you show, the pictures, all of that put together. But the words on the pages, that's really important, having more pages that are laser focused on individual subjects. I'll give you an example. It's very common for websites to have a services page with a list of bullet points. The challenge with that is that each of those points should be a separate page. You're diluting the value of each of those bullet points by stuffing them all together on one page. So having more pages is better from Google's perspective. It also helps your visitor find exactly what they're looking for quickly.
Yeah. So if you're a speaker and you've got a lot of things you speak on, you want to have a speaker sheet for each, a page for each different thing that you speak on.
Correct.
And what that means. So let's talk about, we've already talked about it a little bit, but let's go back to the disease of the I, our, and us when it's coming to regarding the content.
Yeah, it's something I call the I, our, us disease. If you read, and once you're aware of this, you'll see it everywhere. Once you realize how it's structured, you'll realize why it's a bad thing. So most websites, most marketing materials are written in the form of, we're proud of, we've been in business since, our clients, our products. It's about me, all the way down the page until at the very end, oh, by the way, here's what you get out of it.
Yes.
We tend to write the things upside down. That is, we put you and your first, immediately followed by a benefit, and that then conveys the information people want to hear, what's in it for them, and then they'll read more. But they want to know what's in it for them first.
Yeah, so true.
It's shocking to me that people do that. Everything we have in this world is all about the value. What do I get out of it, right? And the more you get out of it, the more it costs. And so why you talk about yourself, even in sales, is not a smart thing to do.
Exactly.
Nope.
So, Jim, talk to us a little bit about how I can make my current website better. Give us some tips for our listeners.
Well, first of all, you can give me a call.
Yeah, for sure.
Or send me an email, and I will give you a free 30-minute consultation. So we'll do that. We'll also do a free 10-point analysis of your website. And I guarantee you'll find something in there that you can do relatively easily and simply that's going to make your site better. But for the most part, it's really about adding content, making that content focused on the visitor, explaining the benefits of what you do and why you're different from everybody else. Those few things alone will make your site much better.
Jim, thank you so much for coming in studio, and I want to give a shout out because I'm one of my core practices: embrace your strengths and hire out your weaknesses. And you really got to focus on what your expertise is and what you're great at, and hire out the rest so that you can get the best information, best content. And we've got a great resource here. You can call the show at 1-855-400-1150. Again, that's 1-855-400-1150, or online at themoneyhour.com, and we can connect you with Jim for what he's offering. Jim, thanks again for being here.
Thank you for having me.
And coming up next on the Money Hour, estate planning. How can you preserve your wealth, protect your family, and create your legacy? Steve Walter of Legacy Planning, right here on 1150 AM KKNW, after the short break.